Evening, y'all. How's it going? Welcome to another Lockdown Live chat, another special edition of a Lockdown chat, if you will. Over the last few weeks, we've been delving a little bit into African metal, kind of dipping our toes a bit into all the genres across this beautiful continent. But given the last amount of circumstances and worldly events that have happened over this last 2 weeks since we joined you guys, we decided to shake up this week's chat. So I'll let my awesome co-host, the purveyor of all things Draconem Media, Mr. Alec Lyle, dive a little bit deeper into this. But firstly, how's it going, man?
Oh, no, it's not too bad. Work is a bit crazy, but that's what pays the bills. So that's a good thing, I guess. Yeah, so we're checking out 10 songs from a sampler of 50 tracks by a label called Realityfade, and the sampler is called as Reality Fades. This label sort of came onto my radar when looking at different sort of brutal death metal / slam labels. Yeah, just research from my own personal capacity. I started following them, and I saw that they were pushing support for Ukraine, and considering what the world's climate is at the moment, I thought, let's showcase some of the bands on the sampler. So I did reach out to the label to find out more, because I have read that their CEO is based out of Ukraine, but there's also some information that says they're a UK-based label. So I was trying to get more info on that, but I wasn't able to get any feedback from the label themselves. So let's just say that this is a Ukraine-adjacent record label. They're supporting Ukraine, and these are some of the bands on it. They're not Ukrainian-based bands, but they're bands that are part of this Ukraine-adjacent label. So let's sort of get into it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's Realityfade Records. So yeah, 10 tracks, as Alec said. First one. Yeah, I guess I could kick this one off. It's a band kind of featuring members from USA, Canada, as well as Australia. They call themselves technical deathcore, and the name of the band is Minds of Moria. Track's called Khazad-dum. And yeah, just off the bat, when you think technical deathcore, I mean, they pretty much hold true to that. It comes in with supercharged blast beats, overlaying low guttural or high-pitched screaming that just works great and blends awesomely. Production, as you would imagine, is tight as hell. All the levels are in their right place. Some tend to be quite a stifler when it comes to that type of thing, but in the case of anything that's related to deathcore, with the little guitar technical death sweeps that they whip in, it really is some quality stuff. So there's a great slam breakdown before the chorus lets rip with some high-pitched vocal madness at the end, and then yeah, a nice acoustic sample that kind of fades the track out after this madness that ensued. Quality track, I believe, just run altered. The one thing I will mention across all of these releases mostly is the production is top notch, as is quite the standard when it comes to anything deathcore related. So with that in mind, first band being Minds of Moria. What were your thoughts, Alec?
Yeah, so I wrote some basic like check marks of Lord of the Rings, check. Tech death sweep picking, check. Orchestration, check. Diverse vocals, including zombie/goblin screams. Check. For me, this is one of the best tracks in the review that we got to see from the 10 tracks that we're going to review. It had a really cool lyric video. I really liked the runic language included in the lyrics. It's a very dynamic track. It goes from super fast blistering tech to slow down tempo slams, and like you mentioned, there's a really cool acoustic guitar outro, and it's like one of the best tracks I've heard all year, in my opinion. So that's Mines of Moria with Khazad-dum. Let's move on to Pestilectomy with Intravenous Napalm Administration, featuring Angel Ochoa of Cephalotripsy. The intro riff of this track kind of, hey?
Yeah, that's a mouthful to kind of like dish out, but yeah, that is the Cephalotripsy and Pestilectomy together.
Yep. So the intro riff kind of reminds me a little bit of like Cannibal Corpse. That is until the slams begin. Yeah, and then the gutturals took over, and this is through and through a brutal slamming death metal track. There was a weird like sample synth choir pad thing at about 1 minute, which was almost like a woman singing, which took me by surprise. The jury's still out from my perspective of whether I liked it or not. I'm just not sure. It was just like completely like floored me. The song was very guttural, and contrary to how like Mines of Moria had like a lot of dynamics, I find if a band goes full guttural all the time, it kind of loses a little bit. So that's just a personal taste thing, though. There's tons of people that are like, it's not real slam unless it's gutturals all the way through. So there was some cool tech death riffage towards the end, and some really slow discordant chugs in the outro. So yeah, I mean, production was top notch, but yeah, slam as slam can be, basically. What did you think?
Tight production off the bat. The trend is continuing. Vocals sit on the low to really, really low, which again, if like for this type of track, and obviously for the nuance and the ethos of what slam is, it probably delivers. In this context, it kind of, for me, kind of holds the track in a way that it's almost a percussive sound, feeding off the riffs and the solid drum that's going. So that, along with some weird little changes in sound and weird additions. You mentioned the weird little choir effect that came in around a minute. There was a weird part at 2 minutes 30, which kind of broke down the entire track into a traditional death metal riff. And I mean, for that in particular, you can actually hear Angel Ochoa, actually the way his soaring highs actually come through in the track. So yeah, that before descending into the most disgusting down-tempo crushing end of the track. And yeah, you wouldn't be disappointed. It's a collab between USA and Germany members, and they consider their genre to be slamming torture music. So yeah, if you're into Pestilectomy or Cephalotripsy, definitely check them out. They're some of the OGs in the slamming death metal scene. So yeah. So with that in mind, we've gone from USA and partly Germany. We're gonna go down all the way down to Wolverhampton in the UK with a band called Old Wharf, if you will, WHARF. Monument of Waste featuring Barney Warner of Replacer. So yeah, Alec, what did you think of this? Let's kick this off your side.
Ah, cool. For me, this was meat and potato slamming grooves. I also mentioned that this is certainly slam. There's a really slow breakdown at approximately 1 minute, which was really cool for me. Yeah, this is definitely for fans of OG slam. It's complete with chromatic chugs, and what you'd expect near the end of the song is that vocal call out in a gang style vocals. This is slam. This is stereotypical of what slam is for me. So it does it, and it does it well. Production is top notch. And you?
Indeed. Like when I researched the band and I found out that they were from the UK, I put pieces of the puzzle together after the fact, because I heard a lot of Infant Annihilator in their sound, the crazy blast beats, the variations of guttural and super guttural. What was with almost like the yelling spoken word that came in around 2.5 minutes. Really, really great. And then obviously the end just shows like both of their vocal stylings, both of the vocalists kind of coming together and just like puking over each other audibly. It was chuggy as hell, brutal as hell. And for anybody that likes their slamming death metal with that UK spin of that tight production, that of like Infant Annihilator, definitely check out old Wharf. You won't be disappointed. So yeah. So what's next, Alec?
So yeah, there's a band called Gravewalker, and this is their track Rise Leviathan, and it's featuring, to me, one of the top tier deathcore vocalists at the moment, Ben Duerr of Shadow of Intent. Yeah, so what did you think of it, Lyle?
Well, number one, sweet here, Dallas, Texas. They call themselves Black and Deathcore with this style, and you definitely pick it up. When I heard it, I automatically gravitated towards a Shadow of Intent or a Lorna Shore type effect, but way more brutal. A lot of orchestration that just sears over like well laid out or well like structured like guitar bits where the vocals literally just feed off the guitar, which is just feeding off the drums. The layering of the vocals is great. What was really nice about this particular one is that it's a lyric video that I saw, and it helps when you actually can read into the lyrics that are popping up, because as per our conversation, this is primarily a deathcore and slamming death metal, which is very difficult to make out lyrics under the best of circumstances. So with that in mind, the black end deathcore effect definitely came into it. Obviously the artwork for it was quality also, and yeah, Ben of Shadow of Intent just adds that beautiful sweetening of that guttural filth towards the end. So yeah, it really does stick with you. All the sounds, all the ethereal atmospheres that feed off it. Good stuff. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so immediately off the bat, high hopes because of Ben Duerr. And yeah, like knowing that he would only get involved with something that's quality. I really like the creepy, culty sort of intro into cruising guitars. There's some really great orchestration in the chorus, and Ben's vocals are so intense, but the main vocalist also keeps up, which is really great. It's not like there's like a massive distinction between the two. if I can be critical, the lyrics were a little stereotypical of metal for me. So like they play into that genre stereotype, but it is listed as black and deathcore, like you mentioned. So it kind of does make sense. Yeah, it's one of the best produced tracks on this list. Like in terms of production values, it's right up there with the best of them. So it's a really, really solid song.
Yep, indeed. So from the US of A, we're going back to good old not so sunny UK with, in my opinion, one of the more interesting listens of the entire show tonight, and that's with a band called Purulence and their track And the Machine Crunches On, taken from their 2021 album Xenarch. And yeah, would you like to kick this off, Alec, or should I?
I can kick it off. It had really cool album art, had like a really awesome weird ambient intro, and then a trap beat started, and I was like, oh dear, please tell me this isn't trap metal. Like even some of my favorite artists have gone and released trap metal songs, and I just can't do it, man. And what arrived was certainly not trap metal, went straight into some slammy guttural music, and I enjoyed it. Gutturals are so unintelligible and so intense. And yeah, it fades out to alien noises and like an interesting melody in like the outro played on like a weird choir pad. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's one of the most interesting tracks probably on this list because it sort of defies a whole bunch of genres and expectations. Yep, and what are your thoughts?
Indeed. Well, off the bat, when I heard the ambient sounds and the weird little almost hip hop electro type beat, I was skeptical. But as you mentioned, within 25 seconds, it goes into this unpenetrable wall of sound with the most putrid, guttural, slamming vocals you probably would hear anywhere. The weird thing with this particular track is, unlike the previous ones, it was not a well-polished track in the sense of final production. It felt very raw to the point of it almost playing to the hypnotic feel, where the vocals are just lingering over this droning blast beated sound, like hitting variations of low, like discordant, as you mentioned. It kind of takes you on a little bit of a journey, like you kind of drift off into it, and the way they filter it out into this weird ambient eclectic type outro, yeah, it's, for me, it actually was great the way it was. Like I kind of feel like it was, if you could call it that. So that, with again what Alex said with the amazing artwork, it had almost a psychedelic type feel in the movement of the tune. The unpredictability of it is also something I really enjoyed. So yeah, definitely something worth checking out if you guys are into like the real brutal, ugly, filthy, slamming death metal with a little bit of nuance thrown in. So check out the Xenarch album from Purulence. So yeah.
Where are we heading to now? We're
going down under, mate. Oh God. We're going down to Australia, the home of deathcore, if you will. But we're going to be shaking it up with a band that kind of tethers on a different level of death, and that's a band called Mereflesh with their track called Butchers, The Butchers, and it's from their EP called Baptized in Blood, released in October 2021. So yeah, Alec, what are your thoughts?
yeah, this to me was a very different entry to the rest of the tracks. It was, for me, almost straight up death metal. They had some riffs that reminded me of Cataclysm, that that Canadian death metal sound. Vocally, it reminds me a lot of a Scottish tech death band called Man Must Die. My favorite riff was like a chuggy section from about 1 minute 15 or so. The song cruises. The chug riff comes back at about 2 minutes. And all I can say, it's a good thing that this song is under 3 minutes, because I don't know if I'd survive longer than that. It is intense and it hits hard, and yeah, I can see this being something very difficult to survive live.
Yeah, definitely. It's, again, from a country that kind of personifies what deathcore comes out as. It was refreshing to actually hear a band that kind of tethers along the traditional death metal feel. Even more so when you hear the vocals, where I think out of the entire list tonight, it pretty much was the most closest to an audible vocal there in terms of hearing actual words that were pronounced, which makes it even that more viscerally aggressive, because it's literally bombarding you with some intense, brutal, hard words, like all overlaced by some real powerful and catchy hooks. It just pounds you with the back-laden drums just sitting perfectly in the mix. It really pulls everything together. The vocals are a little bit more fronter in the mix, but I think for the type of vocals, it really accentuates it. Similar to a Cannibal Corpse, as mentioned, like something that has like real power to it, but doesn't need to over accentuate how low and guttural it is. It's pretty damn brutal. But yeah, definitely pleasantly surprised. Wasn't expecting that, and yeah, definitely a worthwhile band to check out, Mereflesh. So yeah. So right, who's next, Alec?
It's a band called Supreme Banishment. The track is called Erased by the Centuries of the Centuries. Little confused by it, but why don't you tell us a little bit about the band and your thoughts? Lyle.
Okay, right. Well, released obviously 2021 August on Realityfade. The album's Let the Weak Pray by Their Saints, and it's a collaboration between artists from Chile and the USA. And yeah, as per the genre that they listed, they're brutal death metal. And yeah, pretty much from the moment it kicks in, you pretty much are like, yeah, this is brutal death metal. You know, it's like got all the slams. It's got the machine gun style drums that's sitting so loud on the tom, and the snare. It's just going. The vocals are basically falling all over the mix. It sounds dirty and underground, proper slamming death metal, not produced to a T, sounding putrid across all levels, but you know, it kind of like puts the whole track together in like a wall of impenetrable sound. So only problem I felt is that the guitar sat a little bit too back in the mix and kind of let the vocals and drums kind of lead the way. So it would have been nice to have heard in the mix. I think I really would have brought it all together. But all in all, it's brutal, it's slamming, it's definitely death metal. So yeah, interesting stuff. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's short, pummeling, super guttural. For me, it embodied, if you picture black metal having the true cult sound, which is like recorded in the with one mic in the middle of the room, And if you picture slam, the origins of slam having almost like a similar rawness to the production, this was basically the embodiment of that. For me, I don't know if I enjoy the rawness in my slam. For me, the drums were lackluster and they sounded like sprinklers in places, but I know the intention was probably to emulate that original OG slam sound. The song does cruise the whole way through, and yeah, this is probably the most unintelligible vocals in the lot that we listened to. Like, you cannot understand what's going on. But yeah, that's been Supreme Banishment. Who do we have now?
Well, we're going back down under. We're going to a band called Shiva with their track Plagued, taken from the album Planet Eater, released July 9th, 2021. So yeah, Alec, let's actually kick this off with you. What were your thoughts on this band?
Firstly, shout out to the non-stereotypical band name. Like, I really like the fact that it's not like a disease or some violence or two hardcore words put together. The song has a really atmospheric and brooding intro. It kind of made me think of, you know, atmospheric black metal bands like Grimer or Mereflesh. And yeah, the music video was top notch. Quality effects, really cool special effects in there. Production of the song is spot on. What I also did like about this track is that the atmosphere wasn't constant, so it gave the song space to breathe. And you'll hear one of the other bands that we review later, that's not the case. So I really like that this was like, the atmosphere was adding to the track without being overbearing. The clean bridge and guitar build from about 2:30 with the like almost clean shouty style vocals that kicked in were really cool, and it's not something I'd expect to hear on Slam Worldwide, where this track was, you know, premiered. Those shouty vocals being almost in the vein of like choruses from Baba Yaga by Slaughter to Prevail, you know, that sort of shouty, singy style, which is not something you expect from like a slam band. And I think this is probably one of the most melodic tracks on the list, you know. But yeah, top notch. What did you think?
Yeah. Production top notch. Again, it's been a trend for the most part of this, but this when you would think of like proper deathcore with a little bit of melodic nuance, this band would definitely be touching on all cylinders. The use of the atmospheres and the pad work, like sparingly spaced across the whole track, gives the entire individual part like time to breathe when it's just focusing on either the vocals or either the catchy hooks that's to come. And yeah, it's just really layered very well. The vocals hit all the ranges between low, mid-range, and really low. There's also that little part that Alec mentioned at 2.5 minutes that adds almost that melodic singing type effect, but kind of complemented with the guttural vocals, which was a really nice taste. Didn't feel over contrived at all. And yeah, it's just really pulls it all back together at the end after a nice chuggy deathcore style breakdown with almost like a John Carpenter type melodic piano outro. It was very, very tastefully done. If you're into any of those guys, like Shadow of Intent or Lorna Shore, you will definitely not be disappointed with Shiva. So yeah, good stuff. Go check their album Planet Eater. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, Alec, next.
Oh, it's a band called Lacerate Thy Maker, and the song is called Paracytosis. Yeah, why don't you give us your thoughts, Lyle?
Well, okay. Released on, obviously, Reality Fade, July 23rd, 2021. Deathcore is the genre, and they're based out of Corpus Christi, Texas, so back up to the USA. Proper deathcore was the first thing I headlined on my notes here. Low gutturals blended with gently slow detuned riffs kick off the track. Production sounds epic, as you would imagine. The track keeps the moody deathcore tone alive with some awesome guitar harmonics, complementing the mid and low gutturals that are prominent throughout the whole track. At 2 minutes, the track drops its tempo with some crazy low gutturals before picking up the pace again into like a more traditional like death metal bit, allowing the vocals to kind of take that more soaring nature. And yeah, that all comes breaking down again with another brutal breakdown at 3.5 minutes. Yeah, that kind of just are complemented by like searing guitar riffs, very catchy hooks the entire way through. One of the easiest listens in terms of a deathcore track that I've heard. And yeah, this was released off their EP, Submergence. So yeah, quality stuff. What were your thoughts, though?
Cool, yeah, I really enjoyed the sort of melody in the beginning, and when the rest of the track kicked in, you could hear the fall influence. You know, bands like Vildhjarta and Humanity's Last Breath sort of breathing life into this track. There was a bit of a black metal influence also in the bridge with some discordant chords. And yeah, you mentioned the 2 minute mark there. There were some gutturals, but there were also some really cool slams. The video was well shot, and it looked like it was like a straight up band practice, but like in a unique location of like under a bridge or in a abandoned parking lot or some, you know, industrial sort of complex. Very good track. Yeah, I can equate it to bands like Vildhjarta or Humanity's Last Breath. Maybe not as down-tuned as those bands, but deathcore meets gent meets fall. Yeah, so good job by these guys.
Yeah, indeed. So finally, we're up to number 10 on our list for tonight. It's been an interesting one. We've got a band from good old Tennessee in the USA, a place you probably wouldn't really acquaint anything around the lines of death metal, but as you have it, there's a band called Abated Mass of Flesh, and they had a track called Judgment Day, taken from the EP The Dead Will Never Forgive Us. Quality name that. Released September 2020, so this has already been on the market for quite a while. So yeah, number 10, proper death metal, brutal, ugly. What were your thoughts, Alec? Let's kick it off.
So this is the only band on the list that I'd heard of prior to us starting this investigation. Knowing that they come from like a very 8-string discordant slammy origin, it was really cool to have some ambient orchestration in the beginning of the song. For me, it shows growth and progression of the band and the band's sound, them trying something new. The gutturals are extremely over the top. I wish there was a lyric video because I had no clue what was being said. While the ambience was really cool in the beginning, I felt like it could have stopped about a minute into the track instead of going like continuously throughout the track, just to give the slams space to breathe. And for me, it just felt like it washed over the track a bit too much. I think it would have been a lot more effective if it had been used in moderation or instead of basically the duration of the song. But otherwise, yeah, a good entry into a very long list of albums that they already have. So what did you think, Lyle?
Well, from the get-go, I felt an impenetrable wall of sound. It was claustrophobic, like from the moment it kicked in, the sounds in terms of the percussion sits so far back in the mix, it almost gives a droning effect to the music where the pads are sweeping over like the entire tune, and the vocals are just kind of sweeping over all of that, and you've got this discordant, like detuned, like wall of sound sitting in the back, just kind of humming its way. You know it's a blast beat. It's just very hard to make it out. But the one thing I will give him a lot of major props for in terms of the creative reach that they actually took with this was how well, even though the pads and the atmospheres that they were using a lot in this complemented the vocals. It was almost like the drums, all the percussive and the instrumentals was in one side, and the vocals and the atmospheres were on the other, and it kind of was like a collision of two worlds coming together. And the end was probably a planned brutal, muddy, dissonant, the most guttural, to the point of it almost being hypnotically droning to a point. So yeah, very interesting. But again, one of the more interesting bands on the list, but definitely one of the most ugliest. So ends this week's top 10 on a rather discordant note. So what are your thoughts, Alec? How did we do today?
It was cool. It was great to be able to go into like the uglier side of metal, I think. You know, we've been through Africa, now we can do a little bit of international investigations, and this was a really cool way to start. Looking at, frankly, all over the world, the filthy scene that is slam / brutal death. So I think it was really cool. It was cool to see some bands with really different themes, from the stereotypes of murder and Satanism all the way through to Lord of the Rings and Lord of the Rings and I guess like alien stuff. This is one of these genres that the lyrics are very much secondary, because most of the time you can't hear them anyway. So this was cool. I thoroughly enjoyed being exposed to bands that I wouldn't have necessarily seen because of the sheer amount of brutal death metal bands out there. You can't discover them all. So thanks to Realityfade for releasing the sampler and giving us stuff to sort of review. I think we'll, in the description or up here or somewhere, we'll have some link to the Realityfade site, their call out to support Ukraine. And also obviously to the sampler, so that you guys can check out this music, because we only touched the surface of this 50-track affair, you know.
Yeah.
So check it out. There's going to be some gems. There's going to be some diamonds in the rough.
Definitely. And all proceeds of the compilation, I believe, or at least a large percentage of it, goes towards helping Ukraine. So it's a mega compilation. We'll include links in the description, or like Alex said, maybe somewhere here in a block. But yeah, definitely interesting delving into a little bit more international stuff. I can't wait to see what the next few weeks bring. At the moment, we're just shooting from the hips, folks, so we don't know what's going to happen, but we do know in 2 weeks we will have something. We will have more reviews and more dipping into quality metal from across the globe. Where will we be next? Who knows? But yeah, I think for this week, we can probably call this quits. What do you say, Alec?
Yeah, 100%. It was great.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in once again. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That always helps. And yeah, leave your comments of who you'd like us to review next. If you'd want us to keep this trend going with other record labels, other countries, all of that good stuff. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. We'll be back soon. Yeah, keep the social distancing going, all of that weird and wonderful stuff, and hopefully this pandemic hoo-ha will be over soon enough. Also, guys, have a wicked week ahead. Laters.